The dream of forgetting. Before you were born, before you had a name, there was awareness, infinite, unbound, whole. Then you entered the dream of form. You began to call yourself I, to see yourself through eyes that forgot the light behind them. And from that forgetting, life began, the endless search for what was never lost. Swami Sivananda Radha said, "Yoga is the art of remembering, not remembering a past, but the eternal presence that was never absent." The first breath. The first cry of a newborn is not pain, it's recognition. The soul realizing it has entered density again. And yet, every breath since that moment is an echo of that same awareness calling you home. When you breathe consciously, you reverse the ancient forgetting. You remember, for an instant, that the one who breathes is not the body, it is the light animating it. Radha taught, awareness begins where identification ends. You are not the breath. You are the one aware of it. The layers of identity. You wear many masks, the name you answer to, the stories you tell, the opinions you defend. These are useful garments, but none of them are you. The mind will say, "This is who I am," but awareness smiles, because awareness has seen you play 1,000 roles. Radha would remind her disciples, who you think you are is the smallest part of you. Yoga, in its truest sense, is not a posture, it's the gentle removal of illusion. One breath at a time, you undress the false until only truth remains. The voice of the inner teacher. There comes a moment when the search becomes exhausting. You read, you pray, you analyze, and still something feels incomplete. That is when the inner teacher appears. Not as a person, but as a vibration in silence. It whispers not with words, but with clarity. You begin to realize that awareness has always been guiding you, through joy, through loss, through longing. Radha called this the yoga of awareness, the sacred act of listening inwardly until every fragment of self turns toward the source. The light within movement. When most people hear the word yoga, they think of stretching the body. Radha saw it differently. She said, true asana is when the soul moves consciously. Every gesture, every blink, every breath can become an act of yoga if it is done with awareness. You can wash dishes and awaken. You can walk through traffic and pray. You can breathe and remember who you are. Because awareness transforms the ordinary into the sacred. When consciousness fills your movements, life itself becomes meditation. The mirror of the mind. Sit quietly and watch your mind. It rushes, argues, imagines, descends. A mirror clouded by endless ripples. Most people mistake those ripples for reality. But Radha said, when the mind is still, the self is seen. Awareness is not about controlling the mind. It's about watching it until its noise reveals the silence beneath. The mirror does not polish itself by force. It clears when it stops identifying with its reflections. So too, with you. The descent of light. Awareness is not something you climb toward. It descends the moment you surrender. When you stop striving, a quiet light begins to move through you. It does not belong to you. You belong to it. Radha said, the light of consciousness will reveal itself when the ego steps aside. This light doesn't dazzle, it soothes. It doesn't demand, it dissolves. It flows like warm sunlight through your being, illuminating without judgment. And suddenly you realize, you were never the seeker. You were the sought. When remembering through silence, in a world addicted to stimulation, silence feels like absence. But silence is how awareness breathes. When you sit in quiet, you're not disconnecting from life. You're reconnecting to its source. Radha spent countless hours in silence before she ever taught a word of yoga. She said the teachings were not learned, they were remembered from stillness. When the world grows too loud, return to the temple of breath. There, remembrance begins again. The dance of duality. Life moves between opposites, joy and sorrow, gain and loss, light and shadow. Most people live reacting to these tides, but awareness watches them dance without being swept away. Radha said, "When you can see both night and dawn as sacred, you have remembered the truth." The yoga of awareness is not escape. It is participation without attachment. It is dancing while knowing you are the stillness behind the rhythm, the teacher in every moment. The great secret of awareness is this: there are no ordinary moments. Every situation, pleasant or painful, is an ashram in disguise. Each person you meet is an instructor reminding you of something you've forgotten. The argument that humbles your pride, the child that awakens your patience, the silence that confronts your fear. These are your real teachers. Radha told her students, "Don't look for God in the heavens. Find Him in how you respond to the world." Awareness is the bridge between divinity and daily life. The breath of remembrance. Try this now. Take it, enter. Seal it, leave. That's it. That is the yoga of awareness. Not a doing, but a noticing. Not a goal, but a return. Radha would begin each class by inviting her students to breathe silently together, not in unison of rhythm, but in unison of presence. She said, "When you breathe consciously, you participate in creation." To remember who you truly are is to remember that life breathes through you, not the other way around. The sleepwalker awakens. Most of humanity moves like dreamers, reacting, reaching, fearing, craving. But awareness wakes you gently. One morning, you open your eyes and the world feels alive again. Colors deepen, sounds soften, even your thoughts move slower, as if the mind itself bows in reverence. Radha described awakening as seeing with the eyes of the soul, the sacred remembering. Awareness is not something to reach. It's what remains when the search ends. It's like waking from a dream, realizing that the world within and the world without were both playing upon the same screen of consciousness. Radha said, "The purpose of life is not to discover something new, but to remember what you have always known. When you remember, you do not gain power, you regain presence. You return to the original innocence that looks upon everything with wonder." The river and the ocean. Imagine a river that has been wandering for centuries, through valleys, over rocks, across deserts. It keeps searching for rest. Then one day, it meets the ocean. In that moment, the river realizes it was water all along. This is the journey of awareness. You move through lifetimes, experiences, and identities, only to dissolve into the ocean of your own being. Radha called this the merging of the small self into the self. The drop doesn't disappear, it expands into infinity. When you remember who you truly are, you don't lose yourself. You lose limitation. The witness and the world. The practice of awareness is not withdrawal from life. It is seeing clearly, without the distortion of attachment. When you watch your thoughts as clouds drifting across a vast sky, you discover the sky was never troubled by the weather. Awareness is that sky, vast, patient, untouched. Radha said, "The witness is your true nature. Everything else is scenery." So when the mind storms, do not fight it. Simply remember the sky. You have always been the sky. Awareness as light. Awareness is the eternal light behind the eyes. It shines whether you are laughing or grieving, awake or asleep. You have mistaken yourself for the flickering shadows on the wall, when you have always been the flame. Radha often spoke of the lamp within the heart. She said, "This flame does not burn, it illuminates." When you rest in awareness, the light of that flame spreads quietly through your being. It softens your voice, your eyes, your presence. Others may not know what changed. They only feel peace near you. The yoga of everyday life. You do not need a sacred hall to practice awareness. You can remember in the marketplace, in traffic, in the middle of laughter or sorrow. Radha believed that the true temple is not made of stone, but of attention. Every act done with awareness becomes prayer. Every relationship seen through awareness becomes a mirror. You realize that nothing is outside the path. Even confusion becomes instruction. Even mistakes become medicine. When awareness guides you, every step is yoga. The still point in motion. There is a still point within every movement, a silent observer, even as life rushes on. Find it in the breath before speech, in the pause before decision, in the quiet after laughter. That still point is your center. It cannot be disturbed, only forgotten. Radha called it the unmoving dancer within the dance. The body moves, the mind plays its notes, but awareness remains still. To live from that stillness is the highest form of yoga. The mind as servant. When awareness awakens, the mind stops being a master and becomes a servant. It organizes, translates, creates, but it no longer controls. Radha taught, awareness does not destroy the mind, it enlightens it. You don't silence the mind by force. You fill it with presence until it becomes transparent, like glass that allows the light to pass freely. In that clarity, intuition blossoms naturally. You begin to know without thinking, to see without analyzing. This is the intuition born of awareness, a knowing that feels like remembering. The return to wholeness. Every act of awareness heals fragmentation. The parts of you that you rejected, the anger, the grief, the fear, are all seeking one thing: inclusion. When you hold them in awareness, without judgment, they begin to soften. Radha said, "What you observe in love transforms by itself." Awareness does not heal by fixing, it heals by embracing. It reminds every part of you that it was never separate from the whole. The radiance of presence. When awareness becomes stable, you begin to radiate without trying. Peace emanates like scent from a flower. You don't need to speak about spirituality. Your stillness speaks for you. Radha's students often said that being near her felt like standing near sunlight. Not blinding, not distant, just quietly illuminating. This is the natural fragrance of remembrance. Effortless compassion, effortless clarity. When you remember who you are, love stops being an emotion and becomes your nature. The divine mirror. The universe mirrors your awareness. When you are lost, it appears chaotic. When you are still, it reflects stillness. You realize that the world has never been against you. It was always teaching you who you are. Radha said, "The outer world is a mirror polished by the inner gaze." If you wish to change your reality, do not begin with the mirror. Begin with the seer. The moment you remember, the reflection transforms. The silence beyond thought. At the deepest level of awareness, there are no words, no images, no identity. There is only luminous presence, the silence that breathes everything into being. Radha described it as the point where prayer dissolves into listening. Here, there is nothing to seek. The searcher dissolves in the found. Stay there for a moment. Feel the stillness that doesn't begin or end. This is who you truly are. Awareness aware of itself. The grace of forgetting, even after glimpsing truth, you will forget again. That's all right. The dance of remembrance and forgetting is how consciousness plays with itself. Each time you forget, you deepen the joy of remembering. Radha smiled when asked about setbacks. She said, "The divine hides itself only to be rediscovered in love. So do not despair when you lose awareness. Each return is another blossom in the garden of awakening." 25. The living flame. Inside every being burns a flame that cannot be extinguished. Even in your darkest hours, that flame remains, silent, unwavering, eternal. You may cover it with fear, you may bury it beneath distraction, but it never goes out. When you turn inward, you find it waiting, and as you breathe with it, it grows brighter. Radha said, "The lamp of awareness was lit before time began." You are that lamp. You are that light. 26. The yoga of the heart. True awareness is not cold detachment. It is warm, vibrant, alive. It sees without judging, loves without clinging. When awareness reaches the heart, it becomes compassion, not the pity that bends, but the love that understands. Radha often reminded her students, "Your heart is the altar. Keep it pure, and awareness will dwell there." To remember who you truly are is to realize that love and awareness are one and the same. 27. The union beyond opposites. All dualities dissolve in awareness. Darkness becomes depth. Sorrow becomes song. Silence becomes speech. This is the essence of yoga, union. Not union of body and mind, but of the seeker and the sought, the human and the divine. Radha called it the marriage of heaven and earth within you. When you live in awareness, there is no longer inner and outer, only presence flowing as both. 28. The breath of the infinite. Pause now. Breathe in slowly. Feel the air move through you like light. Exhale gently. Can you sense it? The vastness breathing you? The same consciousness that spins galaxies is animating this simple breath. This is remembrance, the recognition that you and the infinite are not two. Radha said, "When you breathe with awareness, you remember the universe is breathing itself as you." 29. The quiet joy. Awareness does not promise ecstasy. It offers quiet joy, a steady warmth beneath every experience. This joy is not dependent on outcome. It is the fragrance of presence itself. Radha called it Ananda, not happiness, but bliss beyond condition. It is felt when the mind rests, when the heart forgives, when being simply is. This joy doesn't shout. It hums softly through all existence. 30. The return to self. And so, after all the seeking, you come home to yourself. No rituals, no grand revelation, just a deep, unmistakable knowing. I was never lost. Radha's final teaching was simple. To remember who you are. Stop trying to become anything. Sit quietly. Let awareness fill your breath. Let it expand until it has no edge. This is the yoga of awareness, the union of the human and the divine, the remembering of the eternal witness, the silent smile of consciousness recognizing itself. Closing meditation. Close your eyes now. Inhale softly. Exhale slowly. Feel your breath merge with the rhythm of creation. Let your mind settle like dust returning to earth. You are not the dust. You are the light that reveals it. Stay in that awareness. Stay in that love. Because the one who seeks, the one who remembers, and the one who is found are all the same. Closing benediction. May awareness be your teacher. May remembrance be your prayer. May your breath carry you back to yourself again and again. And may you live each moment as the yoga it truly is. The union of who you are and who you have always been.